Hello, hello. Can everybody see and hear me? If you can see and hear me, say something in the chat. Looking at you, Jenny. Hello, Kate. Thanks for joining. Matt's here. This is great. Cool. I'm stoked. Austin, good to see you too. Man, lively crowd. Love it. Welcome, everybody. So I'm super excited about this, to be joined by Anna Hetzel. Anna is amazing. She's in Unreal right now working with us, and every week she's just dropping incredible nuggets of knowledge and wisdom on us about how we talk about what we do and how we talk about our business and how we can help others. So super excited for her to share that with you. I think you'll get a ton out of this. I know she's got some interactive stuff planned throughout. Matt, no, we cannot see you. Throughout the workshop here. Feel free to ask questions in the ask a question part under the video, somewhere here maybe, or in the chat, and I will do my best to facilitate that to Anna in real time. So yeah, ask it anytime during the workshop. We'll try to answer it on the fly if it's the right convenient time to do that. Otherwise, stay through the end. We've got another worksheet sort of takeaway for you, and we'll answer questions after Anna gets through her presentation for the most part. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what Unreal is, because you've probably seen it on the thumbnail of this event, and you may not be aware. I know we have a strong Unreal contingent live with us here right now. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here. Unreal is basically an accelerator, a 12-week workshop to help freelancers and founders reach the next milestone for their business. Whether that's just getting started or going to the next stage. We put you in a group of five other individuals who are working on their own projects or business. We meet every week for an hour, and we help you really put the pedal to the metal and get to that next stage. So it's great. It's a community of people that are like-minded, that are like you, who will help you out. Would love to talk to you more about it. You can check out unrealcollective.com to learn more. But for this workshop, I want to turn over as much time as possible to Anna. Anna is a conversion copywriter and brand strategist. She's been with us for the last several weeks, and like I said, she's been just absolutely crushing it and giving us a ton of great insight and help. So Anna, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to fade into the background.
All right. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Jay. I'm so excited that all of you are here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. How's that looking? If it loads.
It's loading. It looks pretty good.
All right. Hey, here we go. Okay. So again, thank you all for coming. Super excited. Yes, Clayton, pedal to the metal. Here we go. So first, what are we doing here? I ask myself that every single morning when I wake up. So we're here to get you thinking about your brand voice in a way that will help you with customer retention. We're going to be covering how to properly connect your brand with your target market, how to begin to build your brand voice in order to effectively communicate your mission, and how your brand voice can develop trust, which leads to a lot of other really great things. But really, why we are here is because writing for business is hard. I am a copywriter, and it is hard. You take this big nebulous company, this big idea, how do you translate that to the market? That's what a brand voice does, and we're going to explore that. So who the heck am I? I am a conversion copywriter, like Jay said, do specialize in website and email sequences, and I'm also a brand strategist. But really, I think of myself as a facilitator to empowerment. That super fluffy sentence means I help your business succeed through data-driven, highly researched copy that pops. So what we're here for, brand voice. What is it? I love this quote by David Carr. Distinctive, emotionally powerful work that cuts through with more buyers than your competition consistently and in the long term builds great brands and revenue. This is my favorite definition of brand voice because it doesn't say brand voice is, it tells you what brand voice does, right? It's distinctive, it's powerful, it cuts through, it speaks to your buyers more than your competition, it's consistent, and it is the long game. Really, what a good brand voice does is create this beautiful cycle, which is the goal of every business, right? Through consistent voice, you develop trust with your customers. They turn into repeat customers, which increases their lifetime value and then turns them into brand evangelists. If you think about a brand or a product or a company that you really love and that you've recommended to your friends, you would never recommend a company that you're like, well, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but I mean, it's kind of awesome. Hey, friend, go check it out. That doesn't happen. You only recommend brands and companies that are consistent and you know what you're getting from them. So that really is the goal, right? To be top of mind in your category and increase the chance that a buyer will notice and think of you when they're in a situation that your product can solve. Down to toothpaste, right? Like when I think of toothpaste, I think of Tom's because I love Tom's. They're consistently good. I love how they make my teeth feel. My teeth look great when I use them. I always think of Tom's. It's consistent. But really the goal for a strong brand voice is to make writing for your business easier. Because like I said before, it's hard. All right, that's great. We figured out what brand voice is and what it can do. But how do we even begin to start thinking about it? Where do we go? So I'm going to put on my teacher cap. I used to be a teacher, and sometimes the best way to take a really big idea is to put it into a physical form. So what we're going to do a little exercise, and we're going to embody a brand identity. What does that mean? The best example is this super famous commercial. We all know it. We all love it. It's won like a bajillion awards, right? So here is Mac, this chill, young, hip dude with a hoodie. And he's like, life's not that hard. It could be more simple. Like, here's this complex problem. Let's solve it in an easy manner. And PC, again, this is Apple's version of what PC looks like, but PC is like this washed up business executive. So this to me is the best example of what a brand would look like as a person. It helps take that big idea and funnel it into something that you can interact with, that you can touch it, you can sink your teeth into it. So I hope that you brought pen and paper. So right now, get your pens out, grab a scrap piece of paper. If you don't have any around, that's fine. You can just do this in your imagination. But I want you to think about what your brand would look like as a person walking down the street. Take a minute or so to draw it. I'm going to keep talking while you're drawing just to like help spark the imagination. So thinking about the Mac commercial, right? That guy's like super chill. He's got a hoodie. He's like very approachable, easygoing, nerdy, but somehow also cool. Maybe your brand is a hipster with like a vintage tea and only drinks pour over coffee. Or maybe they wear flannel and have a giant beard and drink microbrews and hang out at like cool hip places. Or they're a business executive with a suit and a tie and they have very firm handshakes and they drink martinis and they're super classy. So think about if you met your brand on the street, what they would look like. And I would love for you to share in the comments some of your ideas, just to kind of see what you're thinking, how you're imagining your brand. Even if you're a solo entrepreneur like me, like my brand is me, right? Still do this exercise because you still have a brand. Like here's mine, for example. I'm not a good drawer, but this is how I imagine my brand as a person. I have a lot of different facets of me, right? I have who I interact with as my friends, when I go out at night, when I hang out with my family. But as a business, I try to go for a flannel-wearing, down-to-earth professorial type. That's who my brand is. So even if you're a solo entrepreneur, do draw that. And I'd love, if you feel comfortable, share in the comments. Let me know, like, what are they wearing? What kind of coffee do they drink? Do they have super fancy shoes?
Hey Anna, if I'm not super confident in my drawing abilities, can I just write down some some adjectives and some descriptors?
Absolutely. So if you can't draw, even if it's just a stick figure, and then you can point to, the body and be like, they're wearing flannel. As simple as that, but really think about making it tangible. Thank you for that question, Jay. It's okay if no one wants to share. That's fine.
I can give you some thoughts on mine.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So thinking of Unreal as a person, this is a fun exercise, and I'm working with Jenny right now on some brand stuff. So this is fun and kind of top of mind. I think of Unreal as a smiling person, probably a male, probably because I'm male and I'm biased that way. So that's a good question. Should you think in terms of gender on this?
Sure, you can. I mean, I think in terms of gender because I'm female and I'm a solo entrepreneur, so my brand identity is much more female driven. It really depends on what you're selling. If you want to think about gender, I mean, you can think about it as just gender neutral, right? You're approachable on both sides. But that's a great question. It really depends on who you are and how you want to interact, right? There's certain characteristics that males and females bring to the table. Nice, so, Clayton. So yeah. Clayton shared his. Awesome.
This is great.
Jamie, yeah, I like that wearing gray outfits with pops of color. Like you've really thought about this. I mean, you are also a designer, but Clayton drinking coffee in one hand and holding a book in another. Kate, you're caffeinated and excitable. I love that. I'm also right now very caffeinated and excitable. These are great. So thank you all for sharing. Nike sneakers. All right. Austin, I love yours. Jay, do you want to keep sharing yours from Unreal? A smiling guy.
So smiling guy, kind of like intense eyes, I think.
Okay.
Good at answering questions. That's not a look though, but comfortable. Like probably wearing, maybe a hoodie. I'm just describing myself at this point. Probably wearing a hoodie, something comfortable, maybe a little dressier, but only because they want to. Totally by choice.
Okay. So keep a hold of your drawing or your list of adjectives, whatever you have, because we're going to be referring back to it later. All right. Austin, can you hear us again? You said that we cut out. Hopefully you can. Okay, so now that you have... all right, so now that you have this drawing of a persona of your brand, I want to go into a couple examples of what brand voices can look like. So just to give you more of an idea of how a brand voice works in the outer world. The best is, let's do a side-by-side comparison, right? Starbucks coffee and Dunkin' Donuts. At the end of the day, they're both selling coffee. They're selling coffee in their cafes and they have retail in grocery stores, but they interact with their consumers completely differently because of who their brand is. So a couple examples. Here's Starbucks on Twitter. They have this Twitter user that's like, I feel like Starbucks knows me better than any of my friends because how much I connect with my iced caramel macchiato. And Starbucks is like, we got you, boo, heart. Like very conversational, very celebratory. They sound like they're already best friends, right? And so then you look at Dunkin' Donuts Twitter feed and it looks like this. This is total customer service. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. I had to scroll through quite a bit of Dunkin' Donuts tweets to find anything that was celebratory. And I think all it said was, that's great. So they're all about like, we're sorry to hear this, DM us, let's make this right, let's make this right. Two very different approaches to the same platform. Okay, so how about Instagram? How do they interact on Instagram? Starbucks talking to one of the users, I think they were asking about a new drink that they had just released. They're like, hey, adding milk will make it slightly creamier. We recommend this type of milk. And the user's like, wow, thank you. I'm going to try this morning. That type of conversation is something that someone would have when they go into a Starbucks. A barista would offer that advice. Hey, we suggest adding this type of milk. And the person is like, I'm already there. Thank you. I'm going to try that this very morning. Very conversational, very experience driven and engaged. Dunkin' Donuts, this is great. So Dunkin' Donuts has some super fan that has an Instagram page that all they do is write raps about how great their donuts and drinks are. And I mean, this is hilarious. It's awesome. They talk about their favorite server. I think this is incredible. Dunkin' Donuts doesn't respond to this person. Now, I know you guys are all thinking, oh my gosh, they are failing at social media. Don't they understand why it's there? They're doing a terrible job. I'm going to say they're doing exactly what their brand should be doing. And it goes down to what their voice is and their mission. So why the difference between these two brands that are selling essentially the same thing? It's because Starbucks' mission is to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. They're interactive, they're emotional, they're celebratory, they're experience-driven. You know, we got you, boo, heart. They're all about that experience of when you come into a Starbucks and you're there for 4 hours writing that blog post that you keep putting off, or you meet up with a friend to chat over drinks. Dunkin' Donuts, I mean, think about their tagline. America runs on Dunkin'. They are about freshest, most delicious coffee and donuts quickly and courteously. Dunkin' Donuts brand is much more transactional, dependable. They care about quality and speed. So Starbucks is experience-driven, Dunkin' is speed-driven. Think about their Twitter conversations. Dunkin' Donuts cared about someone having a bad experience and maybe their drink didn't come out right or it was slow. You go to Dunkin' Donuts for that quick jolt of coffee, and you go there because you know it's going to taste the same and you know it's going to be great and it's going to be hot and delicious, right? So I just really like this example of how brands interact differently depending on their mission or voice. Okay, go back to your little drawing or your imaginary brand persona and think about how that person would interact with other people. So how would your brand say hello? How would they deal with a problem? How would they handle a complaint? Do people want to keep talking to them? Do you want people to keep talking to them? I mean, think about Dunkin' Donuts. They didn't really want to have a conversation. They just wanted to be the dependable place where you can get a cup of coffee. So let's start with the easy one. I'm going to have you guys interact again if you feel up to it in the chat. But tell me how your brand would say hello. Is it a handshake? It's like a fist bump, a high five, you know, like a head nod, like, hey, what's up? Do they say hello? Do they say hi? Do they say, hey, yo? Is it chill, conversational? Think about how your brand would greet someone on the street. And if you want to share, that'd be great. Jay, I don't know if you want to share what you think, how you think Unreal would say hello.
I definitely like the high five. I'm a high fiver.
You're a high fiver, or your brand is a high fiver?
The brand has been such an extension of me so far that I still feel like probably a high five.
Okay. All right, we got a hug. I love that, Jenny. I'm a hugger. A fist bump, waving. I love that book. Clayton, that is great. Find a common ground to speak to immediately. Ray, head nod and keep moving. Perfect. Down to business. All right. So thank you all for sharing. What's up? High five. Awesome, Austin. So, but, and you knew that there had to be a but at some point in this presentation. How is your brand persona interacting with your ideal client? If your brand persona met your ideal client on the street, would they say hello? Would they take each other out for coffee? Would they buy each other drinks? Would they have a conversation? Or would they just kind of do the awkward, like, oh, we made eye contact, whoops, and walk past each other? This is the most important question when it comes to brand voice. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the webinar and talk about how to build your brand voice. So you have your brand persona, you've thought about how it's interacted, but now we need to think about how it interacts with your target market. This is a typical brand pyramid. Again, as a teacher, I like taking a big idea and making a structure out of it. So this is a brand pyramid that you'll, like, if you search brand pyramid, this is pretty much what you're going to find. The idea is to build up your brand and your voice in sections. So you start with your features and attributes, the tangible assets of your project or service. The functional benefits, so the benefits to the consumer. The emotional benefits is next. So how does the consumer feel when they use or buy your product? The product or brand persona, which is what we have been working with, right? The drawing of who is your brand. And then your brand idea, which is the value proposition, your unique selling position. This is a typical brand pyramid. I think this is great. I love that it's structured. It's something that you can really sink your teeth into and start really working with to figure out what your brand voice is. But I'm going to change it around a bit because I think this is great, but I think it could be better. So this is my brand pyramid. Now you notice all of the categories are the same, but they're just in a different order. At the bottom, I've put the emotional benefits. So what are the customer's internal emotional pain points? Your business exists to solve a problem. In order to figure out how to write for business, you have to figure out who you're writing to. And you're writing to these problems. You're writing to the pain or to the desires of your customers. And so starting with your features and attributes doesn't really get you there, right? That's not your why. That's not why you exist. You exist because of these pain points. And then you can go into the functional and the features and attributes. So I'm going to use my brand as an example because I know it really well and I can talk about it. So as a copywriter, an emotional pain point that my clients feel is externally is, I want to make more money, right? I want to sell more products. Emotionally and internally, what they're actually feeling is, I want to feel like a success. I want to feel like my idea is valid. I want to walk in and be able to support my family. I want to be awesome to my friends, right? Those desires, we all connect deeply somewhere to those desires of feeling like I want to be a success and I want to be valid in my idea. So how can my product solve these pain points? Well, I can take their really big idea and I can write it in a way that's translatable and communicable to their market. I can help validate their awesomeness. My features and attributes, so why am I best equipped to solve the problem? This is where you can get into the, like if you're selling a product, well, you can throw it against a cement wall and it won't break and it only weighs a pound, so it's super light. That kind of stuff, right? For me, it's like I have a process and a methodology and I am really research driven. So we do interviews and analytics, all of that stuff, right? Because you're not going to get to all of that stuff without the person really connecting with, like, you can solve my pain point. Then they care more about your features and attributes. And then from there, I can figure out, okay, this is my brand persona. How do I communicate that to my customers? Because I know my why. And then the brand idea. What makes me unique? Okay, so again, two different ways to approach branding and brand voice. The difference being features and attributes is at the bottom of a typical one. On mine is emotional benefits. So why did I change this around? I love you all to death, but no one cares about your features. No one cares about how long you've been in the business. They don't care that if you drop it from a 10-story building, it won't break. They don't care about that. What they care about is how you can solve a problem. So here's a bad example of some copy. This is a home kitchen and appliance retailer. And this is what most of their tweets look like. A couple sentences with a link. There's no pictures. And here's the copy. Evoke a reaction with our metallic luxe premium evoke range. Available now. Now I can take this apart piece by piece about why this is not a good line. But the main thing, what I want to talk about is no one cares about metallic luxe. They don't. When you buy a kitchen appliance or an accessory or something for your home, you're not trying to like find shiny things. You want to impress your friends that come over to your house. Like if I'm hosting a dinner party, I want to be able to have the tools that will be able to make like the best pasta ever. So when my friends sit down to eat, they take a bite and they go, oh my gosh, you're the best cook in the world. And then if that appliance happens to be shiny with whatever a metallic luxe is, and it makes my kitchen counter look sexy when it sits on it, Sweet, that's a side benefit. But really, my desire is to impress my friends who walk in the door and sit down at my dinner table. So if you're, again, I blocked them out of who this actually is because I didn't want internet shame them. But if you look throughout their social media, they have very low engagement because they're talking very feature focused. No one cares about it. They care about how they can impress their friends at their dinner party. They care about how they can make a super Instagrammable cake so people think that they're awesome. So again, why is this important? Why are we talking about building your brand voice? And starting with the emotional benefits? Because writing is hard. It's really hard to take your amazing idea, which is at the top of the pyramid, and be able to write in a very cohesive way. The reason why you need to start with the emotional benefits when you're thinking about your brand voice is because you need to know who you're writing to. If you sit and you start writing in a silo, you're going to get a tweet like that home appliance retailer, right? It's just kind of stale, sort of dead in the water, doesn't have any life to it because they're not really writing to their audience. They're not writing to those pain points. So I want to help you dream about what it would look like if you had spent the time to like really build your brand voice and think about all of these different parts of your pyramid. What a strong brand voice can do is make decisions easier. It doesn't just make writing easier, it makes all of your decisions easier. So you can ask yourself, is this something my brand would say? Is this marketing decision in line with my brand? Would my brand interact on this platform? How would my brand offer this new product? Would they offer this new product? And how does this solve my customer's problem? So let's take the would my brand interact on this platform example. If your brand is a super professional, slick haired business suit kind of brand, and everybody out there is saying right now, everybody needs to be on Snapchat. If you're not on Snapchat, you're dead in the water. What are you doing? Be on Snapchat. Putting a brand that is very business-like into a platform like Snapchat is like putting a round peg in a square hole. It just doesn't quite fit. It's going to create massive headaches for you and your team because you have to figure out what content do you put on Snapchat. It's not really in line with your brand. So you're going to be trying to force your words into something that doesn't fit. It's okay to say, no, let's not be on Snapchat. Let's put our focus in LinkedIn or on Twitter where our audience is and where it's natural. Yeah, no, thank you, Snapchat. Yes, Kate, I agree. Like your market, if you're a business executive brand, they're not even going to be on Snapchat. And if they are, they're going to use it very privately just to talk to their dearest loved ones. They're not on there for business. So creating a really strong, cohesive brand voice will help with communication between you, your team, and your customers. Literally everything is easier because you have a defined purpose. You have a defined way of talking about what you do and who you are and how you can help. So the big lesson in this whole webinar is that companies with a determined brand voice get to sip margaritas on a beach more often. Why? Because think about all of these decisions I just said of, would my brand offer this product? Would we interact on this platform, et cetera, et cetera. Those meetings with your team that could last hours suddenly become 30 minutes because someone in the back can raise their hand and say, I feel like this isn't in line with our brand. Oh, it's not. Okay, that option is now off the table. What is in line with our brand? Purpose leads to profit. Starting at the bottom with your customers, with their internal pain points and building up from that makes this whole cycle possible. You can develop that consistency and that trust because your team is on the same page, you're on the same page, your customers are on your page. And it creates this beautiful cycle of brand evangelists, and then more people come in and the cycle keeps going. So customers are your foundation, starting to build your brand from the bottom up. All right, now I want you to get your drawings out again and take a look at them and really look at them and be honest here. Oh, sorry. I thought I turned off all of my notifications.
Unreal Collective Slack.
Hey, hey. So, oh, sorry. When do not disturb fails you is this moment. All right. So I want you to look at your drawing of your brand persona. Really take a look at it and be honest with yourself and with me. When you drew this, were you thinking about your customer? Were you thinking about their internal pain points and how you would interact with them? You probably weren't. You're probably thinking about this ideal version of what you want your brand to be. It'd be so cool if we were like that hip brand that always responds with gifts and really funny stickers. If that's how you were drawing your brand, crumple it up and throw it away like right now. It's basically useless. Because look at the pyramid. Your persona is up near the top. If you start building here and then you try to fit it into all the things that are underneath, that's a super flimsy foundation. So before you even get to what your personality is, really go through the work of figuring out those emotional benefits, the functional benefits, the features and attributes, and then how do you communicate that with your customers and what makes sense as a personality that communicates those properly. If after you go through this and you draw your brand persona again and you've done all that work and it's the same thing, awesome, pat yourself on the back, you're amazing, but validate it, right? Don't just start with this really great drawing of who you want your brand to be. Make sure it exists with the foundation. So go forth and be brilliant. Because I used to be a teacher, I gave you homework. There is a downloadable worksheet for this webinar I've made with the brand pyramid, and there's some lines where you can start really filling it out. So if you go to annafhetzel.com/webinar, you can download it and get to work. Start filling it out. If you're a solo entrepreneur like me, obviously I would do it alone. If you have a team, please do it with your team. Bring them in. Even though you're the founder and you're the CEO, they work with other aspects of your brand that maybe you might not know as intimately, and they can bring more ideas in to make that brand voice even more solid. And it lets your team have more skin in the game and helps start creating that cohesion and that teamwork that just makes everything easier. If you want my help, I have a Catalyst Branding Power Hour. It's 60 minutes. It's super intense. Bring a cup of coffee. We'll go through and really work out the external and internal pain points of your audience. We will find the benefits and the features that correlate to those, and we'll get a rough draft of your value proposition and the beginnings of a branding guideline to help you with all of your messaging going forward. So that's also at annafhetzel.com/webinar, and you can scroll down and learn more about the Power Hour. If you choose to go forward with that, that'd be great. I'd love to work with you. Use the promo code PYRAMID for 20% off. So if you take anything away from this entire webinar, is to let your customers be the base of how you determine your voice. Let them drive you. They are already your why. Write to them. Write to their pain points. Let them know that you can solve it. Okay, any questions? Thanks for listening in. I'd love to hear any questions that you guys might have and try to figure out how to stop sharing my screen.
I can help. I put the worksheet link in the chat, and there's a button below the video now that also goes to that same worksheet link. So guys, feel free to add any questions you have here in the chat or in the Ask a Question. Anna, I had a question, which is probably like many people, I've probably, now that I figure out my brand voice, I haven't been doing that. What's it look like to transition to a better plan and a better voice that way? Is there anything that we should be thinking about other than just like starting now, do it differently?
I'm going to reword that question to make sure I understood it. So you develop your brand voice, you figured out your pyramid. How do you start using it?
Yeah, so let's say my business has existed for a year, 2 years, 5 years, and we've not put much thought into how we use our brand voice or how we are intentional about that with our messaging elsewhere. Let's say like social media, for an example. is there anything we need to do to transition from that unintentionality to intentionality other than just starting with this new voice?
So that's a really good question. It depends on how different the new voice is. If it is radically different after you go through this process and you realize, wow, we've been doing literally everything wrong and we need to change, then you need to think about maybe you promote it as like, we are rebranding, like make it a little bit more newsworthy. So you have something tangible to talk about, like maybe get like a slightly updated logo, change the color, whatever. Make it a newsworthy thing where you can go, hey, we've updated our look and feel, like we'd love your feedback. What do you think? Because if you're changing your voice, you're going to be changing your website. 100%. If your voice is changing, your website should change. And so you can talk about, we have a new website, go check it out. And that is an introduction to your existing customer that things may be a little bit different. If it's a slight change, you can just start slowly adding new language in, right? It can be a little bit more organic. It really depends on if it is a holy cow, a 180, everything is different. You need to talk about it to your customers because they're going to be shocked. And I would make sure if it is a 180 difference and you feel like you need to change everything, ask your customers, your current customers first. Give them a survey. What do you want to hear from us? So they feel like they had a voice in this change. Even if you don't, like any of their stuff doesn't really make sense, like they still feel like they have a voice in the change. Okay.
We've got 3 questions.
Okay.
I'm going to move the 2 questions from the chat. We can start with Austin. He was first. My customers and users are different groups of people. Who should my brand talk to?
Customers and users are different groups of people. Who should my brand talk to? So it's kind of hard to know what you're selling and who your customers and users are. But I would think at the end of the day, do they have the same pain points? Youth programs paid for by nonprofits. So your customers are the youth and the nonprofits are, no, your users are the youth and the nonprofits are the customers. So am I correct, Austin? Yes. Okay, great. I actually have a client that does pretty much just this. And so finding that balance between how do you talk to the youth that would come in and use whatever your program is and the nonprofits, at the end of the day, the excitement that you generate in the youth is what's going to speak to the nonprofits, right? So you're doing some type of change for the youth in these programs, and that's what probably the nonprofits are caring about, right? You're solving some type of problem that the nonprofits are already excited about. So showing that excitement, like it's still kind of the same pain point. It's whatever you're solving in that program, the nonprofits probably already care about. So you can talk, and you can talk to both of them. When you talk to youth, it'll sound a little bit different, but at the end of the day, you're doing the same thing. Does that make sense? Great, yeah. Now your collateral will be different depending on your audience, but your value prop is the same. You're changing lives somehow, I'm assuming, if it's with youth programs and nonprofits. Okay.
Add on to that question, Anna, do you see that people utilize, in that situation, would they utilize different communication channels differently? Like, would you have to speak to the nonprofits through Twitter, for example?
It depends on where they hang out. Maybe nonprofits are mostly on email. The kids are probably mostly on Snapchat and Instagram. And so it's how many platforms can you physically handle keeping up with? That's a really big question. So if it's just you, think about choose 2 to get really, really good at. And then start adding a little bit more depending on where things are going. I think I can't really tell you which exactly because I don't really know what your brand is, Austin, and what you do, but I would think about where do the nonprofits and where do the kids hang out and choose one for each of them and focus on that and get that system going. Because what I see too often companies doing is that they try to be on every single social media platform all at once, and it's exhausting. And they haven't figured out how to be right and figured out their brand voice for those before spreading out.
Great. We have a pretty meaty question here from Ray, which I like. He says, I'm having trouble defining my target customer. His product is called Spoolie. It is an earbud management product. He says, since everyone has earbuds and tangled cords, including you and everyone else in this call, and any 6-year-old girls and 70-year-old men, what is your advice for a brand voice across that large continuum of people?
Yeah, so this is a meaty question, but the answer is pretty simple. I think where people get really caught up with target markets is they think too much about demographics, which is great for like social media targeting ads, but you already have your brand voice. The pain point is like everyone has tangled cords. So talk to that problem. Everyone's going to respond to that in the same way. Like, yeah, I hate it when all of a sudden I have a phone call and I spend like 3 seconds on each ring trying to like get, my earbuds separated so I can plug it into my phone and have that call. We all experience that. And that's something that is communicable across every single age group.
Love it. And we have a question here from Jenny that says, as a new brand, what are the steps to take to find my target customers?
The steps to take to find your target customers.
I think what she's saying is she's starting this brand. And Jenny, let me know if this is not correct. She's starting this brand, so she doesn't know, who her historical customers are because there aren't.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah. So Jenny, I did the same thing when I started my company. I didn't have historical customers to look at. But again, you can still start with, what do you think the emotional pain points are that you're solving? Really think about, okay, so you have a brand, you have a company, what are you solving? Start with that, start talking with that. And you can guess, and if you're thinking about target markets, maybe it's mostly women. And so you can have two types of messaging going out, and you can A/B test if you want to get really scientific about it. But really start with the pain points and really dive deep into what are they wanting to solve when they come to you. Answer that very directly with no fluffy language at first, because you don't know who you're talking to yet, right? You just know what they're experiencing, but you don't know who they are. So very direct, non-fluffy talk. This is what I do to solve your problem. And then once you start getting clients and customers, make sure you have a feedback loop in there of, great, they've bought a product or they've interacted with you. Have an automatic thing where they get sent a survey or just a couple questions of, what did you like about this? What did you not like about it? And really be intentional about the questions you ask, so you can get that idea of, who am I talking to? Who's responding best to my product? Does that help, Jenny? Awesome. All right, are there more questions?
That's all we had listed. Anybody else have anything they want to throw in here? Or Anna, is there something that we didn't ask that we should have been asking?
I think, okay, sorry, I'm really bad with names. Ray, I really enjoyed your question because it gave me a chance to talk about demographics. And I really want to challenge you when you fill out your worksheet to disregard completely demographics while you're thinking about those internal pain points, unless it's necessary to your brand. Like if you're selling, walkers to help people who are in their 80s, then maybe you should think about demographics. But like Ray, yours goes across all ages. Put aside those data points right now and think about emotions. I know it's really hard and we've all been taught to do that, but just put them aside and really think about those deep desires. And that'll get you really moving into how you can communicate and how you talk. And then you can start thinking about demographics, because you have more of a drive and you have your why.
I'm into it.
Awesome. Oh, I feel like a mind reader.
Great. Well, that's all I had, Anna. If there's nothing else that the audience is looking for, or anything else you want to share, can you talk to us again one more time, maybe about the Power Hour and how we can talk with you further, or where we can find you online?
Yeah, so if you go to annahetzel.com/webinar, if you click on the brand worksheet call to action, it should take you there as well. It'll have the worksheet, and then if you scroll down, there'll be more information about the Power Hour. Again, we'll find your copy hierarchy, so what's most important. We'll help dive deep into those internal pain points and figure out the benefits and like the solutions that you have for those pain points, and how your authority, which is your features, how those tie into all those benefits. And we'll work to build that pyramid up and up. And at the end of the hour, I'll create a downloadable PDF that has everything that we talked about all written down. You can print it out and share it with your team, or put the brand guidelines that we come up with on your poster board. Again, this is just preliminary to get you really talking about it. Are we going to have to be certain about our clients' pain points? No. You should have an idea of what their external pain points were. Like, I don't know if you remember me talking about an external pain point of my clients is they want to make more money. As long as you know a couple of those, we can get down to the nitty-gritty of what deep down they're actually feeling. That's a great question, Kate.
Amazing. Well, Anna, thank you so much for doing this and sharing your time with us. This is super helpful. I'm going to go do this worksheet myself, so I'm pumped about that.
Yeah, and I would love if you guys fill out the worksheet. You can find me. You can fill out a contact form on my website and tell me how it's going, or you can find me on Twitter. Here, let me put my Twitter handle. And that is my Instagram handle as well. I'd love to hear how this goes for you and how it's helped. And yeah, thanks so much for sticking around. This was fun.
Great. Okay. Until next time. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Ciao.